Up to that point, the murder count had outpaced last year's record by 15 to 17%. The Speaker, on Friday, May 18th, another woman was murdered. On the evening of June 5th, a mother and son were murdered in their Pinewood residence. This event marred our society again, as this is the second incident of a mother and son being senselessly killed together by the same perpetrators. Another record. And we were to count up to June the 7th, 65 people have been murdered. Mr. Speaker, I want to take a quote from the Honorable Prime Minister when he gave a national address, and I quote, "Reason for escalating crime in Bahamas is poor governance." Reason for escalating crime in Bahamas is poor governance. We anxiously await a change in governance as you usher in the Safe Bahamas Plan. Mr. Speaker, we are cognizant that the impact of crime on society is a far-reaching one. There are numbers of families without mothers, the guide and care for children due to them being victims of violent crime. There are far too many fathers and father figures that were gunned down in streets and no longer able to provide for and protect their children and families. The sting of violent crime has touched too many families across this Bahamas, Mr. Speaker. Families from every socio-economic group. Families that will forever carry the stain and pain of their lost loved ones. To these families, we extend our condolences, but also we promise to work across partisan lines to ensure this level of criminality decreases within our Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We saw in the past week, Mr. Speaker, that criminality has again entered the Princess Margaret Hospital, an institution founded on curing illnesses and saving lives. This recent attack reopened the emotional wound of losing Nurse Joan Lund senselessly as she dutifully carried out her responsibilities within the walls of the Princess Margaret Hospital. Similarly, Constable 3337 Herman Pinder, while dutifully carrying out his responsibilities, was shot by a detainee trying to elude detention. Mr. Speaker, these and the similar acts of this past week echoes the cry that we must be resolute. We must be resolute in tough laws, resolute in tough policy, resolute in tough policing. We must, Mr. Speaker, we must be resolute in tough sentences to bring law and order back into our Bahamas. This is not the time for us to go soft on crime. We cannot turn back now. Urban renewal. Yes, urban renewal. But we must go back to basics. The basic traffic violator. You cannot talk about zero tolerance when individuals drive cars violating our traffic laws. You cannot talk about zero tolerance when individuals break and run traffic lights. You cannot talk about zero tolerance when motorcyclists ride around without helmets, when the laws are there. You cannot talk about zero tolerance when I have problems sleeping every weekend because of motorcycles that were licensed by us. Are licensed by us, are infringing our laws. Noise pollution. When individuals in the West have problems in sleeping because noise pollution, residents, license given to homes or nightclubs or restaurants playing excessive noise. We cannot practice zero tolerance when in the West a lot of our wetlands are being filled in and we close an eye. When we close an eye to that, we close an eye to the murderers. He feels that he has an open door to proceed. So zero tolerance means zero tolerance, Mr. Speaker. On May 17th, the United States State Department released a report entitled the Bahamas 2012 Crime and Safety Report, which condemned the criminals' act against tourists and categorized crime rate in New Providence as critical and in Grand Bahama as high. Yet the PLP is talking about the FNM. We are out. Election is over. Let's solve the problem, but we won't stay out. Let's solve the problem. They're still in campaign mode whilst Bahamians are dying on our streets, and the United States is issuing cautionary reports that could greatly impact our tourist product and essentially our entire economic standing. We must remember, Mr. Speaker, that tourism is the lifeblood of our country. 70 to 75% of our jobs are tourist related. If we destroy that, we destroy ourselves. We must protect ourselves. Our economic lifeline is becoming seriously endangered, and yet the PLP bickers. Are you serious? Mr. Speaker, allow me to reiterate the fact that urban renewal was never cancelled by the previous administration, which was claimed by some for political reasons. The budget of $15 million for urban renewal falls under the Ministry of Works and Urban Development. Yes, Prime Minister, I see it in the budget book under Ministry of Finance. But falls under the Ministry of Works and Urban Renewal. We look forward and support the plan's rollout, and we are happy to see that it included urban redevelopment by removal of derelict vehicles and buildings that become havens for hiding contraband, weapons, and drugs. The Speaker, the process of urban redevelopment cannot be done piecemeal, and we urge the government to look at a zone process, look at extending the downtown incentive act so that businesses over the hill would have an opportunity to expand utilizing the duty-free incentive act, so that residents would have an opportunity utilizing duty-free incentive to renovate and repair their homes, so that apartments that are run down over the hill can utilize the duty-free incentive act, so that they too can repair their homes. And a program can be instituted so that part of that rental money can be utilized to repay the loans that they may get either from government or the private sector. We look forward, Mr. Speaker, we look forward to the removal of outdoor toilets and the introduction of running water. Mr. Speaker, I remembered very well growing up over the hill with no running water. When you go to the pump and you had 3 buckets with water, 2 in each hand and 1 on your head. And as the boys, as the males in the house, it was our responsibility to ensure that we went to the pump and collected the water for our sisters. That was our responsibility. I remembered very well while growing up with outdoor facility, having our metal tin tubs where we placed in the yard and filled with water, and we bathed in the yard with Lifebuoy soap. I remembered very well, Mr. Speaker. There was no running water. I remembered very well when lifting water to our homes. There were no washing machines. We scrubbed our clothes, and to help clean our clothes, we boiled our clothes in the yard, the white, and used it and washed and boiled our clothes with argon starch. I remembered very well. And I remembered very well that sometimes, hungry and nothing to eat, we ate that argon starch. I remembered very well, Mr. Speaker. There were no running water. There were no running water. The member spoke about rock, but he has a point. Because I remembered very well, with the outdoor toilets, we utilized outdoor toilets. And thank God, Mr. Speaker, there were no toilet tissue. Thank God for rocks, newspapers. Thank God for the Guardian and the Tribune. They served the purpose. Rocks that he spoke about, they served the purpose. We knew about that, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I grew up in that environment. I went through that. And I look forward to the Prime Minister's keeping his promise so that he would eradicate and ensure that every home over the hill, as was done by our former Prime Minister in Cooperstown, I look forward to every home having indoor facility so that they would not have to go what I went through. They would not have to rely on the Guardian or the Tribune. They would not have to rely on small pebbles, rocks that he spoke about. And they would not have to bathe in metal tubs in their yard. No, Mr. Speaker. I look forward, Mr. Prime Minister, to you. I shake my hand. I bow to you. Mr. Speaker, the PLP has promulgated a pie-in-the-sky project, Safe Bahamas platform. However, can the claims in this platform be fulfilled? Moreover, the last Christie government politicized the police force and left it in shambles. We had to work hard to reform and revitalize the force. Today, as I speak, a former officer who acted in an extraordinarily partisan and politicized manner during the election campaign is now Minister of State in National Security. I hope we do not see one of the worst periods of politicization of the police force in its history. I understand that a number of senior officers are alarmed at the appointment and they fear operational interference. Mr. Speaker, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. We in the FNM support any crime fighting initiative that are constructive and curb the senseless bloodshed. But, Mr. Speaker, we want accountability. We want to see the logic and the tangibles that come with launching such a program. There must be a clear line in terms of appropriate boundaries between the force command and civilian leadership. The Bahamian people and the police force are in a wait and see mode. Mr. Speaker, along with urban renewal, the other buzz term, swift justice, is back with the same honorable champion. The side opposite will undoubtedly roll out a series of plans and deliver a series of presentations on swift justice initiative. The side opposite talks about swift justice, but the FNM put in place the infrastructure and resources to actually have a speedier trial. Due to the FNM, trials are now being held within 18 months, which in the last term the side opposite was unable to achieve. Mr. Speaker, there are now 2 trial courts dedicated by the Chief Justice to hear current matters, that is 2010, 11, and 12 matters. By comparison, in May 2007, there were 8 full-time judges and 13 magistrates. There are now 13 full-time judges and 17 full-time magistrates. We now have, for the first time, 5 courts in New Providence dedicated to conducting criminal trials year-round. Grand Bahama has 2 full-time judges residing in Grand Bahama all year. And for the first time, we now have full-time magistrates in Eleuthera and in Exuma. The side opposite speaks of swift justice. The FNM creates swift justice. Mr. Speaker, this is not the time for us to become soft. Not the time for us to become soft on the criminal elements within our society. The Minister of National Security spoke of the overcrowding of the prison. Yet I see nothing in the capital budget for expansion or construction of new facilities at Her Majesty's prison. I therefore ask the Minister here today whether he has intention of releasing some of the inmates currently serving sentences or not adding to the prison population. Mr. Speaker, don't answer me yet. You got 2 hours, let me use mine. No, you got 3. No, don't waste my time right now. My clock running. Mr. Speaker. Oh boy. Mr. Speaker, they're good at throwing you off. Very good. I learned a lot from you under you. I learned a lot while being trained under you. I'll always remember that. I thank you for that. I thank you for that. Mr. Speaker, the side opposite touted a referendum on oil drilling. But now, the Minister for which area in Tall Pines? Who? Southern Shores. Southern Shores revealed that the PLP may not put the issue of oil drilling in the Bahamas to a referendum as previously stated. The Minister said the public must be consulted. He said, we haven't decided on the methodology in which the issue will be brought to the Bahamian people. It is a matter we are going to discuss at the cabinet level to make decision. Nassau Guardian, Tuesday, June 5th, 2012. The minister came back on June 8th with a referendum saying that they will go forth with a referendum. Can he make up his mind, the Speaker? Before embarking on oil drilling, only thing I ask is that proper regulations be in place. Do not ask the Bahamian people to make a decision on oil drilling through a referendum without the regulations in place. Without proper regulations, any spillage can destroy 70 to 75% of our jobs. Our jobs are tourism related, marine related. The new dredge harbor that we dredged for the cruise ships to come in will be destroyed. The new straw market that we just finished would be destroyed. The forts would be destroyed. Bama, that's going on now, will be destroyed.
In 5 years, put the regulations in.
Paradise Island will be destroyed. Mr. Prime Minister, I only ask that the regulations be placed first. The other thing I ask, is that we look at the system that exists in Norway, so that if there's any oil, the monies that belong to the Bahamian people would be protected. Look at the system so that the Bahamian people finances would be protected for future generation and not squandered by you, me, or anyone. That is what I ask. Protect the people. Mr. Speaker, the tide is already turning. The campaign promises are being broken, and the Bahamian people have been bamboozled. One of the only things ready on day one was how the side opposite would put a slant or backslide on that promise to the Bahamian people. Mr. Speaker, I implore the PLP to do the work of Bahamian people and to fight this crime scourge with vigor and courage, and to cease and desist in the wastage of time by focusing wholly and solely on us, the FNM. The PLP must now carry on the people's mandate and fulfill all the promises it rendered among its 100-day benchmark. Indeed, we must work as a society to curtail the vicious state of crime and develop better conflict resolution skills. Oh, yes, do it.
The chair recognizes the member for Baines and Grandstone.
We intend to sit beyond 7 o'clock, so I would like to move following resolution. That the business of this House does continue beyond 7 p.m. on Tuesday, 12th June 2012.
Do you have a second? Second. It's moved and seconded that the following resolution be agreed. A resolution to resolve that the business of this House will continue beyond 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 12th of June 2012. All those in favor remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The business of this House will continue beyond 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 12th of June 2012. Member 4. The chair recognizes the member for Kalani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we hear a lot, and the member for what Pines, that is?
Tall Pines. Honorable member for Tall Pines.
Member for Southern Shores. One day we would become very advanced where the sign is here, there, or at the speaker's desk, and he just press, we get there, rather than me having to try to remember 38 seats. Mr. Speaker, in response to population, member for Southern Shores, he spoke about our $100 million cost overrun. I want to address that again, so that the Bahamian people would solely understand. So when individuals like him or others speak about it, then at least they can be the judge, not you. In response to population growth on the island of New Providence, an imperative to transform and upgrade the infrastructure of the island became evident. The FNM government entered loan agreement which formed the basis for the IDB-funded New Providence infrastructural improvement. Now, Mr. Speaker, an IDB loan means that there must be international tendering process. So I can't take that loan and give the job to whomever I choose. The requirement is international tendering process, which means that an international entity can win that bid. That's what that loan means. But when one looks at this particular loan, in spite of that, 70 to 80% of those individuals employed were Bahamians. When you look around the world, Mr. Speaker, we were hit by the recession, worst recession we've ever seen. And every country throughout the world was looking to do a stimulus package. If you travel in Europe, roads being built. China, roads and infrastructure. But I don't want to say roads, infrastructure being built. New trains, new lines, new roads, new piping, electrical. Europe, China, everywhere, everywhere, France. You go to Atlanta, Mr. Speaker, the same thing. Roads all dug up, diversion. And I must give ourselves one fault. We did not manage it like you see it in the US or others. There were perfect signs directing you here or there. And we take fault for that. We take fault for that. Mr. Speaker, the objective of the program was to reduce cost. The objective of the program was to provide an efficient transportation system similar to that of Florida standard. The objective of the report, or the objective of the program, was to improve water mains and laterals, install and improve electrical and communications conduit, to decrease flooding through improvement in drainage. And I want the Bahamian public to understand that it's decreased flooding. We cannot, and they must appreciate, we cannot prevent flooding. But the objective is to decrease it and minimize it, but we cannot prevent it. It's to decrease traffic congestion for road users. And Mr. Speaker, by decreasing that for road users, we would decrease the amount of road rage that we see on our streets, which in itself can contribute to criminality. The objective was to improve road safety and improve aesthetics through proper, they lasted one term. An initial contract, Mr. Speaker, an initial contract was signed in April.
Honorable members.
Stop, Nicola.
Honorable members. Member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, an initial contract was signed in April 2001 with Associated Asphalt. Oil prices at that time was $20 per barrel and subsequently increased by more than 500%. Mr. Speaker, the parent company of Associated Asphalt encountered problems and entered receivership. Time elapsed, And then the Christie government entered a bidding or tendering process in 2003 for roadworks between Bethel Avenue and Howard Road in the west and Blue Hill Road in the east. Bethel Avenue and Howard Road in the west and Blue Hill Road in the east. Bahamas Hot Mix was the recommended company by the tenders board. Bethel's Trucking, you were in power. Bethel's Trucking was not recommended. I repeat, Bahamas Hot Mix in a clear, upfront bidding process, legal, transparent bidding process was the recommended choice. Bethel's Trucking was not. Before the final decision was made, Bethel's Trucking and Bahamas Hot Mix formed a joint company. For some strange reason, they married. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker, the contract was awarded to this marriage. This joint company that got married, they got the contract. And that was done on 30th of February 2004. This project, though small, now Mr. Speaker, remember, I want you to follow clearly. They're talking about our cost overrun. I'm talking now about a small project from Bethel Avenue in the west to Blue Hill Road in the east. That small project had a 34% cost overrun. The road, the infrastructure that we speak about today is not nationwide. And they did not experience the challenges that I will outline later. Now, Mr. Speaker, I guess I have to ask the question now that Bethel and Hot Mix, they got married under us. Now that you're in, they subsequently got divorced. Now that you're in, they got divorced under us. Now that you're in, I guess they will remarried again. I don't know. Mr. Speaker, further to this project, the joint venture company was awarded another contract in October 2005 to construct a new roundabout at Robinson Road and Blue Hill Road and improvements to the roundabout at Blue Hill and Howard Road. Now, Mr. Speaker, that's a short span. Robinson Road to Independence Highway. This comprised about 0.25 miles of dual carriageway between these roundabouts, landscaping, sidewalks, drainage, and street lighting. This short project, I could walk that in 3 minutes. That short project ran a delay of 7 months. Something I could walk in 3 minutes. Mr. Speaker, based on the brief history just presented, I now wish to discuss the project awarded to Jose Catalin. This massive project included the installation of 24-inch water mains, some 20,600 foot from Blue Hill Road to Fox Hill Road and Blue Hill Road South to Carmichael Road, along with 15.8 miles of newly rehabilitated roads, 71 miles of utility ducts, and miles of sidewalks and other amenities. I would admit, Mr. Speaker, that this project encountered numerous challenges. Some expected and some unforeseen. They encountered sinkholes, especially between Saunders Beach and the six-legged roundabout. I want members who ride or drive Howell Road and John F. Kennedy would notice now that there are numerous sinkholes that exist now in that area. And members who live in the West would also know that the West is recognized for a number of sinkholes. Mr. Speaker, unmapped and unaccounted for underground utilities were also present. Unmapped. Underground utilities, water lines and others that you knew nothing about. Mr. Speaker, there are some government buildings, I will not call the names, but some government buildings that you and I sit in has water lines that is unmapped and have been receiving water illegally for years, umpteen years, unmapped. That's what we ran into. Shallow cables, pipes, and electrical ducts that required additional relocation and modification work. Mr. Speaker, the cables are required to be a certain distance from the surface. We met cables and lines that were not, which meant that because of where they were placed so close to the surface and for so long, as you shoveled, the lines automatically, because of the wear and tear and the longevity of how long they were there, were brittle. They were brittle, which meant that lines that you were not expected to remove and repair had to be done. That is why we ran into cost overrun. But remember, there was also need for additional waterworks due to the poor condition of the water pipes and the increased installation of a large number of service laterals, which further compounded the time delays and cost overrun. The Speaker, the increase in fuel prices and the required additional land acquisition also contributed to cost overrun. When we reviewed the challenges that caused the overruns, one must also review the overall benefit recognized by the completion of a substantial project such as this. Many persons living in the Eastern District already experience improvement in water pressure and quality, which would improve as the project is completed. Mr. Speaker, I want the member, the Honorable Minister of Environment, if he review his report about the dengue, he would note that water storage in the East, I won't get into too much details, he can review the report, contributed to a lot of the dengue and mosquito problems that we faced. But now, with proper water lines, we would not have as many storage. The same problem would apply to the over the hill. That is why I support the Prime Minister when he said that he will remove all outdoor facility and ensure that water lines are present. Mr. Speaker, also, without the proper water lines, you are exposed to an increase in various different disease entities, such as food poisoning. And individuals in the East before have complained of yellowing of clothing, staining of clothing, etc. So their quality of life has improved. There is undeniable improvement in the quality of roadway, which would decrease the wear and tear and outright destruction of our vehicle. And Mr. Speaker, while I'm here, I want to say that in my constituency, Kalani, I would hope that the Minister of Works is listening to me, because between Blake Road and Travelers Rest, There are numerous potholes that I can almost sit in and almost, you'd only see my head. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, help us in the West. We need repairs. The roads are bad. Just repair our potholes. The individuals who live in Emerald Bay, Munnings Drive, I look forward to Munnings Drive being repaired. And while that's Southwest Ridge, as you enter Southwest Ridge from John F. Kennedy and go beyond Southwest Ridge, you enter Munnings Drive and Kalani Shores. The street there is bad. Monies were to be, we were planning on repairing it, but it's bad. And those individuals who live in Emerald Shores and Kalani Shores, they need that street. And while I'm here, I want to thank Miss Judy. I want to thank Miss Judy DeVoe, who has done an excellent job in helping the residents in Emerald Shores and Kalani Shores by doing a lot of work to Munnings Drive and assisting the individuals there. And I think she needs to be commended for the excellent work that she's done. Mr. Speaker, the benefits from the infrastructural improvement from the expansion of John F. Kennedy from LPIA to the six-legged roundabout will then again provide better water pressure and quality to residents in the east, south, and west, as this includes the installation of another 24-inch water main. It was the intent of the FNM government, Mr. Speaker, knowing the hardship encountered by the motoring public and business communities adversely affected by the project, to provide assistance for them. Assistance, we would hope, would still be extended by this Christie administration. You have talked, residents have complained about their businesses. We have introduced a program to assist them. Mr. Prime Minister, I would hope that you would continue to assist them. Former Prime Minister Ingram stated in his submission to this House on March 5th, 2012, and I quote, "It is my view, however, that it has been vexing and tortuous, and so I have determined that it would be appropriate to have an independent review of government's administration of the project. The report will be made public so that the appropriate lessons may be learnt from the experience and inform public policy in the future." Prime Minister, I ask that you follow through so that mistakes that are made in the past would not be made in the future. We must learn from experience so that new policies would be enacted so that future generation can move forward. Mr. Speaker, I want to move into another area. If one reviewed the 2011-2012 budget communication, one would note that $25 million was allotted for a national job readiness and training program, which consisted of three components: service and productivity improvement trust, a retraining trust, and an apprentice trust. 3. The Service Productivity Improvement Trust was to target 1,000 young individuals, including recent high school graduates and those out of school for more than a year. The second component retraining targeted another 1,000 individuals who were mature persons with a view to upgrade their skills in their existing fields or for acquiring new jobs. And lastly, the apprenticeship trust targeted another 1,000 individuals with a focus of acquiring basic and advanced technical skills. Mr. Speaker, both private and public sector would have been involved in these training programs, especially training in areas where shortages exist, including, but not limited to, teachers' aid, after school and playground monitors, and I'm sure it'll probably be used in the urban development and park programs, neighborhood watch workers, medical technicians and health assistants, elderly care providers, information technology technicians and data entry personnel, construction and landscape technicians. And Mr. Speaker, allow me to reiterate that these aforementioned programs were national in approach, and they were not limited, I repeat, with a capital N, they were not limited to New Providence. These were national, the entire Bahamas. It was essential to train and prepare Bahamians for the ongoing developments that we see in existence today. We were preparing for the future. That is, the new developments, Bama, the Princess Margaret Hospital Critical Care Block, the Child and Adolescent Center at Sandlands, the expanded emergency room and operating theaters at the Rand Memorial Hospital, the new community hospital under construction in Abaco, the new community hospital under construction in Exuma, the new township being developed in Abaco, and the new government complex. Mr. Speaker, they need personnel. Our problem yesterday, we construct, we do things, and we do not have proper planning. You put individuals who are not prepared to do a job, and then they don't perform, and we blame them. We blame them. This is changing the tides. We're trying to prepare individuals so that the mistakes that we made yesterday, we don't make it anymore. We must prepare. 60% of individuals, it's a fact, 60% of individuals, their job performance is down, not because they don't want to work or because they're lazy, but because they're placed in an area that they don't want to be. These individuals have to be trained. If they're trained, they'll be placed in areas that they want to be. And the problems that we see today, we won't see tomorrow. The new community hospital, Mr. Speaker, the new community hospital plan for Eleuthera and the advancement of telemedicine, teleradiology, digital medical records, and the planned healthcare integration. We're planning for tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, after commencing these programs, the government recognized that there were still many more Bahamians who wanted to be trained, who needed to provide for their families, and who qualified and suffering, but yet was anxious for employment, anxious for training, anxious to provide for their families, to become independent, and anxious to become involved in this new Bahamian dream we are creating. No, Mr. Speaker, no caring government would have limited expenditure to the budgeted $55 million and deny Bahamians these benefits. Therefore, decisions were taken to address, decisions were taken to address the outcries of these behemoths and to further fund these projects that invested in behemoths. The FNM administration in 2011-2012 budget launched a public service employment and training initiative that sought to engage in the public service 100 college and university graduates and 100 high school graduates to gain work experience and training in public service. So this was nothing new. Mr. Speaker, colleagues opposite accused the FNM administration of hiring persons in the public sector leading up to the last general election. However, it must be noted that the Bahamians hired were budgeted for, and most of all, apolitically hired.
Guilty.
As we invested in our people.
Guilty. Shame.
Mr. Speaker,
Guilty.
any businessman would understand what I'm about to say. Any businessman would now understand. If you tried to hire 4,000 individuals, applications, policies, meeting requirements, placing them, Mr. Speaker, it is impossible for you to place 4,000 individuals in a matter of months. It is not unusual. It is not unusual for you to take a long time meeting all the various applications, ensuring that they meet the standards, etc., and placing them. It's not unusual. Any business 101 would understand that even up to a year you would still be placing individuals. Business 101, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, moving to one of the more important topics in our country, the environment. We experience continuous problems with garbage collection. The West, even worse. Maggots are running of garbage bins, etc. Maggots larger than I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't know if you remember when we came in office, there was a tourist that was bitten in the straw market by a rat, and she thought it was a puppy. I don't know if you remember. She thought it was a puppy. This happened in 2007. Speaker, 2007. Now, I'm not saying the maggots are big as a puppy, but there's some big maggots. Bins are overcrowded. In some areas in the West, we have not had collection for 4 weeks. And you try to blame it on the rain? For God's sake, it rains all, yeah, off and on. Mr. Speaker, that was why. Mr. Speaker, these pose health problems. These pose health problems. Members.
I can't hear the speaker.
There are increased rodents. We already seen. We don't want anybody to be bitten thinking it's a puppy again. Mr. Speaker, with the increase in rodents, pose and this to my medical colleagues. You pose the danger of leptospirosis. I'd leave it there. They understand. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to proper garbage collection system that we wanted to implement so that individuals would know exactly what time the garbage trucks are coming, so that we would reach a point where rather than putting your garbage out for rodents, there are some individuals who can keep the garbage in the garage setting until the particular time, a proper setting. We are building and we are creating a first world nation. We cannot half step. You're pregnant or you're not. I urge big belly, that's all. Only belly. Only belly. I ain't got belly, ain't nothing here. I urge, let's speak of my time right now. You can give me another hour. I saw the member here, the speaker allowed him to go on and on. I said it was bad precedent you were setting. I said it was bad precedent. No, what's not him? No. You trying to get my time, man. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I urge the Minister of Environment, to not allow your legacy to be a poor garbage collector. Don't fall in that trap. I want you. We are having problems throughout this nation, especially the West. I want you to deal with the noise pollution. I want you to deal with dumping, and I want you to deal with the illegal filling of wetlands. Mr. Speaker, let me say a few words about health. All governments are responsible for delivering affordable and accessible health care for all. The amount of funds allotted for education, it will decrease the amount of funds allotted for national security. It will decrease the amount of funds allotted for tourism, and it will decrease the amount of funds allotted for your public service budget, or you would have an increase in borrowing and debt. Mr. Speaker,
Private doctors make more money.
the government, I don't practice anymore. The government, I what?
You have to now. You have to. You have 16 months and you're going to retire. You retire.
I'm enjoying my retirement. Mr. Speaker, the government, no, I didn't disturb you. Let me finish. I didn't get right. The government.
Sorry, the chair recognizes the honourable member for Berry Islands and North Andrews.
Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to clarify a point made by Kilani. The whole issue about national health insurance is that you create a pot of money that is exclusive for health. There's no such, that is the whole problem with the current system, that you now, health has to share the consolidated fund. It has to compete with education and security, etc. And the whole point of a national health scheme is to have a dedicated medical fund. That's the basic principle of it.
It's
Chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member say, get me right. Listen to me. Listen carefully. I do believe in health financial reform. All I say is do it right. You say you believe, you say that you believe in Bahamians. All I say is show it. Be responsible. Mr. Speaker, I ain't going to tell you better. Mr. Speaker, I asked the member when he's introducing the new medical act to please look at amendments. You must have something in there to deal with teleradiology. Because if you do not place that in your new act, what will happen, you can have a non-medical personnel who can open radiology centers, and all the reading interpretation can be done any part of the world, and their money is subsequently taken out of the country. I want you, no, the legislation I would have put to deal with that. I want you also to deal or look at the matter with parallel drug market. This is a serious issue and pose a serious threat to the Bahamas and will result in massive layoffs. Mr. Speaker, before I move from health, I only want to say that I got a call from one of the 13 pharmacists that completed who wanted to thank me for assisting him in their training and receiving their bachelor's degree in pharmacy, which would obviously help with alleviate the shortages of pharmacies that we presently have. I want to go on a little to financial services. Mr. Speaker, financial services comprise about 20% of our GDP, 15 to 20. Citco Fund Services Bahamas closing its doors on August of this year. 40 Bahamians will be laid off. These are high-paying jobs, middle-class jobs. You promised you're going to create jobs. What I want to point out is that Citco offices in other Caribbean countries, Cayman, Bermuda, Barbados, are not affected. And therefore, I ask you to look and see why they are, I ask you, why they are not, they're being laid off now, why they are not affected.
Members, please, I could hardly get the honourable member for Kalani.
Mr. Speaker, Lombard ODA Bank is also transferring their trust department to Bermuda by August, the end of August of this year. More layoffs again. Mr. Speaker, I was very shocked. National insurance is one of the best, and I must admit, one of the best piece of legislation or entity that we have here today. That was a good thing the PLP brought, and I must admit. But I was very, very shocked. We had added the unemployment benefit to help Bahamians who were not working, sometimes for reasons beyond their own, beyond their control. And I was very, very shocked when the member for Carmichael, when asked about the unemployment, he said, and I quote, make them work. My God, that's Lyndon Penman's son-in-law. Lyndon returned his grave. Mr. Speaker, this is an excellent program, the unemployment benefit. It commenced in April of 2009, and already 26,771 individuals are benefiting. Listen, throughout in some of the European nations, you would know that the unemployment benefit paid them almost 70% of their salaries. Mr. Speaker,